The world is made of 90-degree angles, tempered glass, and the deafening sound of absolute silence. This is the gospel of Olivia Marks. Every structure I build is a manifesto against the chaos of the organic world. I strip away the sentimentality of wood, the untidiness of leaves, and the vulgarity of color until only the skeletal truth of steel and concrete remains. They call me the architect of glass, not because I am fragile, but because I am transparently cold. My life is a blueprint where no line is ever out of place, and no breath is ever wasted on a feeling that cannot be calculated. But today, there is a smudge on my masterpiece. I stood on the second-story mezzanine of my private residence, a cathedral of brutalist geometry, overlooking the jagged cliffs of the coastline. Below me, in the central atrium that I had designed to be an empty void of light, there was dirt, real, dark, damp earth. And in the middle of that dirt was Emma. She was 23, and she was an insult to my symmetry. She was kneeling on the polished white concrete, her bare feet tucked under her, stained with the very soil she was spreading. Her hair was a sun-kissed disaster, a tumble of honey-blonde waves that looked like they had never met a comb, decorated with stray bits of moss and dried jasmine. She wore a wrap dress of dusty rose linen that flowed around her like a spilled drink. She was humming, a low, rhythmic melody that vibrated through the glass walls, mocking the sterile acoustics I had spent millions to perfect. "You're late, Emma," I said. My voice didn't carry. It cut. It was a surgical instrument designed to remind people of their place in the hierarchy of my world. She didn't startle. She didn't even look up. She just continued to press a fern into a ceramic pot, her fingers moving with a terrifying rhythmic grace. "Plants don't follow a clock, Olivia," she replied. Her voice was the opposite of mine. It was warm, textured, like old velvet found in a trunk. "They follow the sun, and the sun was behind a cloud this morning. So, I waited. I felt a phantom twitch in my jaw. No one calls me Olivia. I am Ms. Marks. I am the director. I am the woman who decides if a skyscraper lives or dies. In this house, we follow the clock. The atrium was designed for light, not for a jungle. I hired you to provide a minimalist accent, not to turn my sanctuary into a swamp." Finally, she looked up. Her eyes were amber, the color of sap or aged cognac. They were wide, annoyingly observant, and entirely devoid of the fear I usually saw in my subordinates. She looked at me through my geometric black glasses, as if she could see the exact moment my heart had stopped beating 10 years ago. "A sanctuary without life is just a tomb, Olivia," she said softly. She stood up, brushing the dirt from her knees, with a casual disregard for the pristine floor. She was small, but she took up an enormous amount of space. She radiated a heat that seemed to warp the very air around her. "You've built a cage of glass so perfect that you're afraid to breathe in it. I'm just giving you some oxygen." "I don't need oxygen," I snapped, stepping closer to the edge of the glass railing. "I need order. I need the ferns moved 3 inches to the left to align with the shadow of the support beam, and I need you to put on shoes. This is a construction site, not a meadow." Emma laughed. It was a bright, unruly sound that echoed off the concrete like a challenge. She walked toward the center of the atrium, her bare footprints leaving a trail of damp earth on the white floor. I watched them, my chest tightening. Every step was a scar on my perfection. Every footprint was a reminder that I was no longer in total control of this environment. "The shadows will move by sunset anyway," she said, looking around at the towering glass walls. "Why fight the inevitable? You've spent so much energy trying to stop time, but look at you. You're shivering." "I am not shivering," I lied, but I was. The air conditioning was set to a precise 68 degrees, yet I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the climate control. It was the chill of a woman who had realized that the intruder in her home wasn't just a gardener, she was a mirror. I turned away, my heels clicking a sharp, defensive rhythm against the mezzanine. I needed to get back to my desk. I needed to look at lines that didn't move and materials that didn't grow. But as I reached the door to my office, I stopped. I looked back down at the atrium. Emma was kneeling again, her head bowed over a small, flowering vine. The sunlight hit the nape of her neck, illuminating the fine, golden hairs there. She looked so fragile, yet she was the one bringing the heavy, ancient force of the earth into my glass box. She was the chaos I had spent my entire career trying to outrun. "The glass is reinforced, Emma," I called down, my voice trembling with a sudden, inexplicable urgency. "Don't get too close to the perimeter. The pressure of the soil could stress the seals." She looked up at me then, a slow, knowing smile spreading across her lips. "Are you worried about the glass, Olivia? Or are you worried about what happens if it breaks?" I didn't answer. I went into my office and closed the door, but the silence was no longer absolute. I could still hear her humming. I could still smell the mint and the damp. The walls were still transparent, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was the one watched. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop, but the screen was a glowing white void. I looked at my hands. They were pale, steady, clean. Too clean. I thought about the dirt on Emma's fingers. I thought about the way she had looked at me, not as an architect, boss, but as a person trapped inside a beautiful, expensive mistake. The storm. I could see the clouds gather over the ocean, a bruised purple bruise on the horizon. Wind began to howl against the glass, a low, mournful sound that seemed to be searching in. I stood up and walked to the window, pressing my forehead against it. I was 42 years old, and I had built a world where nothing could hurt me. But as the first drop of rain streaked down the glass, I realized that I had also built a world where nothing could reach, except for the girl in the dusty rose dress, except for the smell of mint, except for the slow, creeping realization that my transparent walls were the only thing keeping me from falling apart. The glass felt thinner than it had this morning. The angles felt sharper. The felt louder. And in the heart of my house, the green was growing, silent and relentless, waiting for the moment the finally give way. The storm did not break that evening. It lingered, a heavy, suffocating blank gray that turned the house into a ghostly lamp against the dark cliffs. I sat in my office for hours, staring at a single CAD drawing until the lines blurred into a frantic web of black ink. Every time I opened my eyes, I saw those footprints, damp, earthy shapes on my pristine floor. They were more than... They were a breach. I told myself I stayed in the office because of the deadline for the Dubai project, but I knew I was lying. I was waiting. Around midnight, the power flickered. The house groaned, the steel beams contracting in the sudden drop in temperature. I stood up, my joints stiff, to the mezzanine. The atrium below was bathed in the rhythmic blue-white pulses of the distant lightning. Still there. She hadn't left. She was curled up on a low concrete, surrounded by her plants. She looked small, a splash of soft rose-colored linen against the brutal gray. She wasn't sleeping. She was watching the storm. "The guest quarters are in the east wing, Emma," I said. My voice echoed strangely in the hollow space. "You are not a squatter. You are an employee." She didn't turn around. She leaned back, her head resting against the cold concrete wall. "It's too quiet, guest wing. Out here, I can hear the house talking to the ocean. Can't you hear it, Olivia? The glass singing. The glass is vibrating due to wind velocity 60 knots, I replied, descending the stairs. My movements were, my spine a rigid line of defiance. It isn't a song, it's physics. I reached the floor of the atrium and stopped. The smell was overwhelming now. It wasn't just dirt. It was the scent of life in transition. Damp moss, crushed mint, a sweet musk of flowering jasmine. Why choose something that inevitably dies, that sheds leaves, that rots? Why not something permanent, something built to last? Emma finally looked at me, in the dim light. Her eyes were dark pools. She reached out, leaf of a large monstera she had planted earlier that day. Because the rot is where the magic, she whispered. Because things that don't change aren't really alive. They're just frozen. Like you, I felt the air leave my lungs. I am not frozen. I am efficient. You're a masterpiece, Olivia, she said, stand up slowly. She walked toward me, her bare feet making no sound on the carpet. But you're a masterpiece in a vacuum. No one can touch it leaving a mark. You make sure no one gets close enough to try. She stopped just inches from me. The height negligible, but she felt towering. I could feel the heat radiating from her skin, a sharp contrast to the air-conditioned chill of the room. She smelled of rain and something that made my head light. You think you're safe behind these walls, she continued, her voice being chaos. You talk like a poet, I said, my voice trembling. Poets build cities. They just cry over the ruins. And architects build the ruins in advance, countered. She reached out. I expected her to touch my arm, or perhaps my shoulder. Instead, she lifted her hand and traced the edge of my glasses. Her finger was warm, the skin slightly rough from the... I should have pulled away. I tired her. I should have retreated to the safety of my 90-degree angles. But I stayed. I was a bird paralyzed predator, or a statue waiting for the first crack to appear. Take, she whispered. No, take them off, Olivia. Let the light hit you without a filter. My hand moved of its own volition, reached up and removed the geometric frames, placing them on the concrete bench behind me. The world blurred slightly, the sharp edges softening into a haze of gray and green. Without the lenses, I felt naked, exposed. And in closer, I could see the individual flecks in her eyes now. I could see a small smudge of dirt on her cheekbone. She looked at me with a terrifying tenderness, as if she were inspecting a rare, fragile flower she had found growing in a wasteland. There you are, she said softly. A massive crack of thunder shook the house. The floor beneath us vibrated, a deep, tech shudder. I reached out instinctively, my hands catching her waist to steady myself. The linen of her dress was soft, thin, and beneath it, I could feel the curve of her body, the frantic, living pulse of her heart. The silence that followed was heavier than the storm. Emma, I breathed, her foreign word on my tongue. The walls are still, Olivia, she murmured, her face so close I could feel the humidity of her breath. But you're not. She didn't kiss me. Then, she just stood there, holding my gaze, forcing me to the sensation of being seen. Truly. For 20 years, I had hidden behind blueprints and glass, but in the center of my own creation, this girl had found a way through the seals. I looked at her lips, then back at her eyes. The order was gone. The symmetry was shattered. Fix it, I whispered, though I didn't want her to fix the house or fix me. I'm not here to fix anything, Emma replied, her hand sliding from my glass nape of my neck, her fingers tangling in my silver blonde hair. I'm to let the wild in. She pulled me toward her, just a fraction. It was an invitation, a challenge, a threat. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care about the consequences. I didn't care about the dirt on the floor or the storm outside. I only cared about the heat. The glass house groaned again. long, low sound of shifting weight. It felt like the entire structuring in, pushing us, waiting for the moment finally broke her own. The tension didn't break. It dissolved, leaving us suspended in a vacuum where the only laws were gravity and the suffocating proximity. Emma's fingers were a wild against my neck, a sensation primal. It threatened to rewrite my entire internal code. I was a creature of cold stone and calculated risks. Yet here I was, leaning into the touch who represented everything I had spent my life excluding. "You're trembling again, Olivia," she whispered, voice a soft friction against the silence. "The storm," I started, my voice filling me, cracking like a fault line. "Storm is outside," she countered, her other hand coming up to rest against my chest, right over my heart. This is inside. This is you." I should have stepped back, my mind aiming at me to reestablish the perimeter, to glasses back on and retrieve the safety of my office. But my body was no longer listening to the architect. It was listening to the earth. I reached up, my hands trembling as I moved from her waist to her face. Skin was warm, vibrant, and alive in a way that made my sterile world feel like a cemetery. I traced the curve of her jaw, my thumb brushing over the smudge of dirt on her cheek. I didn't wipe it away. I let the grit of it ground me. "I spent 10 years building this place," I said, my voice a ragged ghost of its former authority. "I thought if I made it perfect enough, if I made it transparent enough, there would be nowhere for the shadows to hide, nowhere for the pain to grow." Emma, me, her eyes reflecting the flickering blue light of the lightning. "You didn't build a house, Olivia. You built a shield. But you forgot that shields to be temporary. If you wear them too long, they become..." She leaned in, and this time there was no hesitation. The kiss was a calypso. It was the clinical precision of my world, the unbridled chaotic growth of hers. It tasted of mint, of rain, and of a hunger so ancient my knees buckle. It was soft. It was a gasping thing, a survival instinct. I pulled her closer, my finger tangling in the sun-kissed mess of her hair, pulling her against the rigid, tailored lines jumpsuit until the distinction between us blurred. The glass house groaned, a deep, metallic protest against the wind. But I didn't care. I wanted the glass to break. I wanted the ocean to reap away the CAD drawings, the white concrete, and the 2 years of lonely perfection. We moved as one, a frantic dance in the dark. My back hit the cold surface of a concrete pillar, the shock of the temperature sending a jolt through my spine. Emma didn't pull away. She pressed closer, her hands finding the zipper of my jumpsuit, her touch a frantic rhythm against the silk. "Is this part of your design, Olivia?" She gasped against my throat. "Oh," I choked out, my falling back against the pillar. "This is the error. This is the flaw." "Then let it be," she whispered. She pulled back enough to look at me, her face flushed, her eyes glowing with a fierce, untamed light. She looked like a goddess of the forest standing in the ruins of a fallen civilization. She reached out and unbuttoned the first few buttons of her rose dress, exposing the pale, fulled skin of her collarbone. I was lost. For the first time in my life, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a blueprint for the way my heart was hammering against my ribs. I reached out, my hands finding the soft linen of her dress, and pulled her back into the kiss. Suddenly, a massive strike of lightning hit the transformer at the edge of the cliff. A blinding light filled the atrium, followed by a deafening roar of thunder that felt like it was inside my very... The house went pitch black. The hum of the air conditioning died. The security system gave a final beep and fell silent. In the sudden, absolute darkness, the world felt even smaller. The only thing that existed was the sound of our breathing and the earth at our feet. "Power is out," I whispered into the dark. "Good," Emma replied, her voice. "Now you don't have to look at the lines anymore. Just feel." She took my hand and led me toward the center of the atrium, toward the dirt and the ferns. I followed her blindly, my heels clicked last time on the concrete before I stepped off the edge. The sensation of the soil beneath my feet was a shock. It was soft, cool, and damp. It squeezed between my toes, a tactile invasion of my personal space. I flinched, my instinct for order recoiling, but Emma didn't let go of my hand. She pulled me down with her until we were kneeling in the mud, surrounded by the heavy, fragrant leaves of the monstera. "Do you feel that, Olivia?" she asked, her voice a low hum in the dark. "That's the ground. It's been here long before you built yours, and it'll be here long after they fall." I sat back on my heels, damp earth soaking into the charcoal silk of my clothes. I should have been horrified. I should have been thinking about the dry cleaning bill, the ruined aesthetics, the loss of control. But as I sat there in the dark, the rain lashing against the glass above us, and Emma's hand in mine, I felt a strange, terrifying sense of peace. The structure was still there, but the architect was gone. I reached out in the dark, finding Emma's face, my fingers tracing the line of her lips. She leaned into my touch, her skin warm against the cold air. "I spent my life trying to be invisible behind the glass," I said. "You're invisible now," she replied. The storm continued to rage, unscripted force that mocked the 90-degree angles of my home. But inside the atrium, in the heart of the swamp I had tried to prevent, something was taking root. It was messy, it was unplanned, and it was entirely of the protocol. It was the only real thing I had built. The dawn did not break the shadows. It merely turned the gray world into a bruised, translucent violet. As the light filtered through the rain-streaked glass of the atrium, it revealed a scene that would have been an unthinkable nightmare only 24 hours ago. My charcoal silk jumpsuit was ruined, stained dark with damp earth, and smeared crushed emerald of moss. My hair, usually a silver precision, was a tangled mess. I was sitting on the cold floor, my bare legs stretched out into the dirt, and for the first time in my adult life, I didn't reach for my glasses. Emma was asleep, her head resting at my shoulder. Her breathing, only rhythmic thing left in the house. The power was still out, the climate control silent, the air heavy with the scent of ozone and wet jasmine. I looked at her, and then I looked at the house. The ice temple was leaking. A small hairline fracture had appeared in the upper skylight, where the storm had hurled a branch against the pane. A steady drip of rainwater was falling, hitting the concrete with a rhythmic tink, tink, tink. In my old life, that sounded a siren, a call to arms, and to summon a repair crew and demand an explanation. Now, I just watched the maid in a small puddle on the floor. "You're staring at the crack," Emma murmured, with sleep. She didn't move, just tightened her hold on my hand. "It's structurally sound," I said, my voice sounding foreign to my own ear, softer, stripped of its metallic edge. Not perfect anymore. Sat up, rubbing her eyes with the back of a dirt stand. She looked at the fracture, then back at me. A slow, mischievous smile spread across her face. "It's better than perfect. It's a way for the sky to get in." She stood up, offering me her hand. I took it, feeling the strength in her fingers, the grounding reality of her touch. As she pulled me up, I felt the stiffness in my joints, a reminder that I was 42, the night on a floor of stone and hill. It was the most honest I've ever felt. I have at 9, I said, looking at that digital clock on the wall. The board of directors, the Dubai. They expect a presentation on the future of sterile living. Emma laughed. An irreverent sound that seemed to shast of the cold atmosphere. Tell them the future is overgrown. Tell them the walls are coming down. I walked the mezzanine, bare feet silent on the stairs. I entered the office and looked at the black screens of my computers. They looked like gravestones. I picked up my GMSs from the desk, looking at the world through the tinted lenses one last time. The lines were still there, the 90-degree angles, the cold, calculated brilliance of my career. But when I looked at the atrium, I saw the smudge. I saw the ferns, dirt, and the girl in a rose-colored dress who was currently dancing a slow, solitary waltz among the broken glass shards of the fallen partition. I put the glasses down. I didn't need them to see the truth. I walked back down to him. Emma stopped her dance as I approached. The silence between us was no longer a barrier. I reached into the pocket of my ruined jumpsuit and pulled out mine. The battery was at 1%. I dialed my assistant's number. "Marcus," I said when he picked up, his voice frantic with worry. "Cancel the meeting. Cancel the Dubai project. And tell the contractors to stop the work on the glass seals." "Ms. Marks, are you all right?" The storm. "I'm finally breathing, Marcus, that's all." I hung up and let the phone slip from my ears, clattering onto the concrete. It was just plastic and silicone. It had no place here. Emma walked toward me, her eyes glowing like liquid amber in the morning light. She stopped an inch away, her warmth radiating through the cool air. "What now, architect?" I looked around at my glass cage, at the cracks, at the dirt, and at the wild green life that was beginning to reclaim the space. I reached out and took her face in my hands, my thumbs tracing the line of her jaw. "Now," I whispered, leaning in until our foreheads touched. "We redesign the world. And this time, we start with the heart, not the blueprint." The kiss was slow, tasting of the morning rain and the end of a long, cold winter. Outside, the ocean continued to roar against the cliffs, a chaotic and beautiful force that no wall could ever truly contain. Inside, the Ice Queen had melted, leaving behind a woman who was finally, terrifyingly, and beautifully alive. The house was no longer a monument to my ego. It was just a place where the light could get in,